Hello, this is Greg Allison from Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm, coming to you from my log barn. Today we're going to talk about the seeds of war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Potential war, that is. One we hope don't occur, but very well could. Why is that? Well, the roots of this dilemma go far back in time, probably to the origins of the different sects of the Islamic religion, the major sects being Shia and Sunni, with the Iranians following the Shia sects and the Saudis and most of the other Islamic people following the Sunni sect. And of course there are subdivisions therein, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So before I do that, I would like to mention that if you've not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit the update notification bell to receive future videos, and please click the links below to support my channel. We are looking at the prospects of the real prospects that we may have a war coming at us that may affect us right here in the United States, and I won't explain why that is in a moment. And that's why you need to consider prepping. That's why you need to consider going to My Patriot Supplies. It's also why you need to consider going to the gas station, filling your tank up, and never letting it go under half full right now, because we just don't know what's coming. You need to watch my videos about how to survive and prep, how to thrive, survive, and stay out of the hive, how to live from the trees, eating them, what's there in wild edibles and medicinals. I'm covering those things. You don't seem to care for those videos so much, but you need to. Also, you need to be able to grow your own garden. I do videos on that, indoors or outdoors. Cover both, and do sell worms, which you will need if the power grid goes down, which is one of the potential consequences about what I'm going to talk about. And you won't be able to run the store and buy things, so you better have heirloom seeds, True Leaf Market below for that, and be able to grow your own, or develop your own fertilizer and pest repellents. Worms are a great source for compost and worm tea, which work for those things. greengregs.com, links below. Now to get into the story here. With Iran, we deposed, our CIA deposed a democratically elected president, which was quite popular, to put in power the Shah of Iran. The Shah of Iran was a tyrant. He was terrible, and the people hated him, and rightfully so. We did that because the previous government seemed to be more aligned with Russia, so it was part of the bigger geopolitical spectrum of things, but it did not sow goodwill in Iran when we went in and deposed a democratically elected by the people government and put a tyrant in control. And that sowed the seeds of the Ayatollah's revolution later. That and the fact that the Republic had been so secular, which was not popular among the Islamic people. Now, that said, Iran is much different than a lot of other countries in the Muslim world. They actually do have a lot of people that want to live much like people in the United States. In many ways, they're more like us than you might imagine. Given time, if we weren't putting the kind of pressures that we're putting on Iran, I do think that the people would rise up and demand a different governance than what they have currently. That almost happened. There was a color revolution that started in Iran during the Obama administration, and oddly, even though he supported all the other ones, he did not support that one. I don't know why, but that could have been a source for change so that the governance wouldn't be what it is today. All that's water on the river now. We've got the cards that are dealt before us, and that's what we have to look at. The current powers that be in Iran know that a lot of the people would otherwise not appreciate them and probably want to depose them, so maybe they feel that they're on a short fuse. Also, the fact that we put a lot of pressure on Iran actually unifies the country behind the current leadership to some degree, so maybe they're kind of happy with that to some degree. However, we are squeezing Iran really hard with our sanctions, and that makes them want to strike back in some fashion. We're pressing them real hard, and Trump just announced the hardest sanctions we've ever put on any country. So that's not without consequence. Japan considered it when we embargoed them in like fashion that to be an act of war and went after Pearl Harbor. you squeeze a country real hard, they're not going to be happy. Now, what all that means in the long run, I don't know how that's going to play out, but there's more to it than that. So that's part of it from the side of the Iranians, the Persian people. From the other side, the House of Saud is in grave trouble in that Saudi Arabia's broke. Saudi Arabia needs something on the order of $80 a gallon, of $80 a barrel for oil. They need their cost of the production is such that they need to be able to sell it for $80 a barrel. And the current world market is around $60, give or take a couple dollars, depending on how light and sweet it is and other things. So I'm seeing oil from $58 to $64 a barrel, and I last looked a little bit ago and checked it. That is way below what Saudi Arabia needs. And Saudi Arabia's been hemorrhaging money because of that. The Aramco, the Saudi oil company, is the Saudi economy. And they've not really saved money, and they distribute the House of Saud money to all their people in their kingdom from this company. And that's one way they keep their population in check and happy. And there are seeds of discontent there in Saudi Arabia. So the country's bankrupt. For that reason, they want to go public, make a public offering of Aramco, and they're hoping for something on the order of $2 trillion of immediate cash infusion. Well, that may be a short-term plan. How's that going to keep them going for the long term? What investments do they have to maintain the country for the long term? Or do they even plan on long term? Saudi Arabia is under a lot of pressure. Iran is under a lot of pressure. Bibi Netanyahu, who also wants to strike Iran, is under a lot of pressure right now because they just had an election in Israel, and it wasn't deterministic. It's yet to be seen who's going to wind up being the prime minister, if Bibi can put a government together, or if he's out, more or less. Or it was just too close to call. Time will tell. We'll maybe see in a few days here how that's going to play out. But we know he wants to strike Iran. The House of Saud wants to strike Iran. The House of Saud, Saudi Arabia, of course, has held war against Yemen. The Houthi rebels in Yemen. And because really that's their back door. If they're facing Iran, the Houthi rebels in Yemen are at their back door. They don't have to fight from both sides, so they wanted to soften the Yemenis first. Just like perhaps that may be the strategy of why Israel wanted to fight Syria, because Syria is in Iran's pocket. Before they'd want to strike Iran, they'd want to soften up the Syrian side so they wouldn't be hit from the flank. That may be the military strategy involved in why we have a war in Syria and why we attacked Assad. I don't think Assad is nearly as bad as the media and other sources have made him out to be. I'm not saying he's great and wonderful. None of these people are great and wonderful, by the way, the leaders, but there are good and wonderful people in every one of these countries, and they deserve better than what they're getting. I'm not here taking sides. I'm just telling you what I know and what I see. Sides I'm not taking. I'm just laying it out because there's a threat before us, and we need to understand that it's real, and that's why I'm telling you this. So Israel considers Iran having a nuclear weapon to be a threat, an existential threat to their people, even though maybe they got 200. Why would Iran want to cause a war against Israel, given those odds? Maybe not. In all logical sense, there should be no reason that Iran would want to attack Israel, based on logic. There should be no logical sense why Iran would even want to attack the oil facilities of Aramco in Saudi Arabia. But they got attacked. Did they get attacked by the Houthis? The Houthis claim they attacked them. And of course our Secretary of State went over there and he declared that no, these were in fact Iranian assets that attacked us, Iranian cruise missiles now they claim, and drones. And he says that Pompeo, he says that, hey, this was an act of war by Iran. So why does it matter to us? Why does the United States care about Saudi Arabia other than getting oil from them? Hey, we're supposed to be oil independent, so why do we care? Here's the reason that the United States is concerned and involved. It goes back to Nixon. See, this gets really complicated. Nixon made a drug deal, in essence, with the Saudis. And that drug deal was as follows. The drug deal was, hey, if you buy all your oil, if you only allow your oil to be sold in US dollars, we will defend your country. And the reason they did that was Nixon wanted to take the dollar off the gold standard so he could expand the number of dollars in the marketplace. Because there's only so much gold in the world. He didn't want you to be able to have to return in the dollar for so much gold. And so that way they could expand the economy and not be tied to the gold standard or whatever. You can bake that till the cows come home. That's what he did. And the effects of that were as follows. It has enabled the United States to print money. The Fed just sent out $200-something billion into the economy, just out of thin air generated, in order to keep interest rates low in some fashion. But you know, usually when you put more money in the economy, interest rates shoot up. The inflation shoots up, that is. No, not interest rates. But our United States government is deeply in debt. And we spend more and more money, kind of like the House of Sod. And we keep promising more and more expenditures, but our revenue base isn't that great and wonderful, kind of like the House of Sod. We spend a lot of money. We're able to do that because there's so much money out there in the world. It hasn't caused us a Weimar inflation. You know, and if you're printing money, typically you get crazy inflation. Well, we're printing money without that crazy inflation just because there's so many dollars in the global marketplace. It's not just the United States economy right here, because other countries are trading in US dollars. And that is part of the drug deal we cut with Saudi Arabia. So if we break off the deal with Saudi Arabia, we could have Weimar type inflation. Maybe not to that degree, because our economy is a lot bigger than the German economy was in that day, and other factors. But it would still be a very ugly day. So our economy is tied in to the Saudi economy a lot more than you might want to imagine, and decisions that Saudi Arabia makes. And so we're kind of militarily tied at the hips with Saudi Arabia, like it or not. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just telling you what it is, because it ain't pretty in any situation. Because of the potential strife stirring in the area. It is a fact that the Saudis and the Iranians are fighting proxy war in several countries right now, Yemen being the principal one. But these activities take place in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other places. Some people even say Nigeria. So it's there's a lot of stuff going on in this area, and it could boil to a flashpoint because there's a lot of pressure on the Iranians right now, the Iranian Republic. There's a lot of pressure on Saudi Arabia with this Aramco deal. The Houthi rebels are somewhat less than happy because 1 million of them are facing starvation right now, and as a result of this conflict, and they're being bombed. So, you know, maybe they would, if they had the opportunity, commit the act that they took credit for doing. If they did that or not, I don't know. Secretary of State Pompeo says that absolutely day and night it was Iran and an act of war by Iran. But also the Houthis are Iranian proxies, but they're not one and the same. So it's a complicated picture, and it's a picture that could escalate very rapidly because things keep happening. You know, the Iranians shot down one of our drones. They've been capturing ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and now there's the attack on the Aramco oil facilities. What's the next shoe to drop? How much pressure can Donald Trump take before to save face, he's got to commit action, or to save the deal with Saudi Arabia? I mean, his current action in response was that he increased sanctions very stringently on Iran. Is he planning more stuff? You know, if you're going to hit somebody, you're not going to just jump up. If you're a good strategist, say, oh, yeah, we're going to hit you. No, lay back. We're not going to do anything. Kind of like what he's doing now, and then maybe you hit. That's a possibility. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if another shoe drops, I mean, a lot of people are calling Trump to do something. The deep state is definitely pushing, and some people say he looks weak for not acting. I don't agree with that because the sanctions are a pretty stern response. However, Rouhani, the president of Iran, said that if we retaliate in like fashion, which was what some of the options are that are being weighed, meaning by we strike back at them exactly as we perceive they've struck at us, like taking out a few oil refineries. His response is, that will be total war. We will respond with total war. You guys go, Greg, why do we care? Iran's just Iran. They're way over there. How is that going to affect us? Well, the Iranian economy is $1.6 trillion. They have 545,000 active service members. They have over 300,000 in reserve. I mean, the total reserve and active members of the Iranian military force is on the order of better than 900,000, close to 1 million people. That's a huge force. By comparison, Saudi Arabia has one of the largest military expenditures in the world, at a tenth of their GDP, and their GDP is $1.77 trillion, which is pretty substantial. But they only have a couple of 100,000 people in their armed forces. So, you know, really Saudi Arabia is going to need other countries on their side, like Israel. What an alliance. Israel and Saudi Arabia, and of course, mainly, chiefly, the ally who cut the drug deal with them to maintain our economy, and our dollar is the world reserve currency, the United States. So we are, in some fashion, in bed with the Saudis. Should we divorce them, split the sheets, and divide the hickory nuts? That's easier said than done. And who knows, President Trump might decide to do that. He did fire Stash, Bolton. But Pompeo seems to be clanging for war as much as, if not more than, Mr. Stash, John Bolton did. So it's not a pretty picture. But the reason I tell you all these things is, look, the Iranians have Tehran, which is a very modern metropolitan city, huge city. And it's not some mud hut town. This is a modern city. The people there are very smart. I mean, they launched a satellite. They were the 9th nation in the world to launch a satellite into space with their Safir booster. They can develop nuclear weapons. They have the technology. They understand it. They understand satellites. They hacked one of our stealth drones that was flying overhead. They hacked it while it was in flight. And they commanded it. They didn't crash it. They commanded it to land on one of their airstrips. Don't tell me that the Iranians are not a very smart people. They are. They are. I know some of these guys. Some of them are brilliant. I mean, they're exceedingly smart. So don't cut them short. Don't ever cut other people short. And you might be dismissive. It's just them. They're just there. They're this. And the other thing is, so they have missiles. They could launch stuff here. I have heard from a source that I knew some years ago, who was tied in with certain activities, who claimed to me that the Iranians took 2 Soviet nuclear-tipped missiles when Kazakhstan broke out of the Soviet Republic, before they turned everything over to Russia. And that was part of the reason why Kazakhstan turned all their nukes over to Russia, is they couldn't control them. They were losing their fingers on some of these. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, there may be 2 of those in Iran. Of course, the old fuses would have burned out a long time ago, but Iran is smart. They know how to build fuses for these triggers for these things, and I'm sure that's the least of their problems. So it's possible they may actually have a weapon or 2. I don't know. Pure speculation. But they could cause an EMP strike. They do have the delivery systems and satellite launchers that could do such a thing. They have the missiles. But most over, what I have pointed out repeatedly in many videos is that there are 9 critical substations in the United States that will take down our power grid entirely across the nation, and it could be down for years. 9 out of 10 people estimated by the Congressional Task Force could die within a year without the power grid up. I will tell you that number is very optimistic. It will be more. And if you watch my other videos, you should see why. When I talk, why farmers will starve on the farm and why preppers will die. Check my 2 videos out on that. So the thing is that the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard was told this. And So what? We've already got 20 of these substations targeted by our sleeper cells in the United States. Take it or leave it. You know, it only takes a small crew with some AK-47s to do the job. So we're talking about a very unconventional force that could have huge impacts on our country. For little effort and little money, they could take us down. Greg, why are you putting all this information? They already know it. They already have it. I'm not revealing anything that's not already known by all of our adversaries. So there you have it. We are at risk. We are at risk at home right here, and that includes me and you and everybody you know and love should this conflict erupt. Will it erupt? And if it does erupt, will all these things take place? I'm not saying that. I'm not a prophet. I'm just here telling you to keep your head on a swivel and your eyes open, because we don't know what's coming, but there are surely a lot of things to be concerned about in the world right now. So you've got, like I said, keep your head on the swivel and resolve to stay alive, thrive, and out of the hive. And you know, that's my motto, and that's what we need to do. So again, check the, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to my channel, click the update notification bell, and please check my links below to support my channel. And together, maybe we'll figure out how to survive, to eat these things, and watch my videos. And you know, we got to get about forming a tribe here, some tribes here in this country that have the better shot and chance of surviving in the long term. I hope we have the time for that, and I hope none of these things happen immediately, that cooler heads prevail and all this blows over. So you know, you can always pray, meditate, or do whatever means something to you in that regard. And if you have the right kind of connections, you can pull strings to keep these things from happening. More power to you. There's nothing good about this. There's nothing good in redeeming that's going to help you or I should these events unfold as some people suspect they may. Again, I hope cooler heads prevail. Thank you for watching.